Good evening and welcome to episode 2 of Tales from Texas Prison with Marvin Sullivan. Today's August 16th, 2012. It's 11 o'clock in the evening, Central Standard Time. First of all, our first episode last week, episode 1, the Trucking Cheeseburgers Hustle. Apologize, the video came out bad and a lot of people were not able to hear the audio. Just want to let you know we're going to re-record that because we've had a lot of inquiries about it. Folks wanting to hear it because they could see the video and the topic seemed interesting, but they were not able to watch it. Tonight we're going to talk about what most people, men especially, wonder about when you talk about doing prison time. Because there's a lot of talk about it and always has been that a lot of rape goes on in prison, and that there's gang rapes, and that there's just a lot of curiosity on the subject. And this man here has been in prison. He just did a 10-year sentence. He got out in 3, right?
Yeah.
Got out in 3, but he did time at a Texas prison that has 4,000 prisoners, and he has been to other prisons and he's seen changes over time. We've got some good news tonight. Prisons changed, and there's not a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on, at least not like it used to, but he can tell you about what it used to be like and what it's like now. Texas has implemented a new program called Safe Prisons, and according to Marvin, things have really tightened up, and safety is a big issue, and men in general seem to be safe as far as their personal safety goes in Texas prisons. Marvin, let me turn the mic towards you. First of all, when did they start this safe prison?
Safe prisons was started, to my knowledge, 4 or 5 years ago here in Texas. It's a program designed to make prisons safer for inmates because the violence that used to be in prisons.
Let's stick to sex on this one. We're talking about sex in prison. There's 2 areas as I see it. There's consensual and non-consensual. There's men who want to have sex with other men and do it consensually, and then there's men who want to have sex and they rape other men. Let's stick to those 2 areas.
Okay.
Now, as regards to safe prisons, a lot of the safe prison program was probably designed to stop some of this activity, right?
Right.
So, what's the law say in Texas prison now about raping another man?
If you do anything like that, you will be free world charged, and it will be a new case.
Did you see anybody get that charge when you were in?
Yes.
And they took them out to trial, and then they come back to the same unit with time added to their sentence?
Yes, and most of them are segregated away from population for a period of time, too.
After they do that, they get segregated?
Yes, they do.
So that still happens, but now there's a more severe punishment for it, right?
Yes.
What is the punishment? In the free world, if you get raped, you can get, 25 years?
Oh, it can
even
be
25 to life, right?
Yeah,
if you rape a woman?
Yeah, you can get more than that. I mean, you can get 40, 50 years.
The guys you saw, what did they get?
I know some that's got 25, 30 years added to their sentences for it.
For raping a man in prison?
That's right.
And you say they use the kits,
Yeah, they have rape kits. Once a person says they've been raped, they'll report it to a guard, and then a guard will report it to the supervisor, and they'll take the person that got raped down to the medical, and will examine them.
We talked about this on the way home. I figured that guys would be, especially weaker guys and younger men might be scared to report it, because if they report it and they're not believed, then they really get screwed, wouldn't they?
Well, a lot of nowadays, back in the day, guys could just be talked out of it. They didn't want to have to fight for their manhood, and a lot of guys would just simply give in to it.
Yeah.
That's the way it used to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes they used to forcefully take it back in the day. I mean, that was just the
In
way it was.
gangs or just one at a time?
One
or
at a
what?
time, gangs. It just depended on the person, I guess.
What about color? Would it be white on white or black on white or?
No, the majority of the rapings that go on is white. I ain't black on white.
It is.
Yes,
Why do you think that is?
because
Because there's more blacks in prison.
no, the black race thinks white people are weak.
Huh. So there's not much black on black.
Well, there's a few. I mean, they do prey upon their own kind, but mostly upon whites or Mexicans. Because they're little, because they're big, and they think they can bully you into doing it.
Okay, well, as far as consensual sex, we were talking about the punks earlier. Some men like to have a punk, and somebody are even in love with them, like they're a spouse or a woman.
Well, now
when that goes on, do the blacks have other blacks as partners?
well, usually open homosexuals in prison
Yeah.
are housed in another building.
Yeah.
The ones that are openly homosexuals, they that's part of the safe prisons deal. We call them yellow bands.
Yeah.
The very few open homosexuals are allowed in population. There are some, but they're square business.
But
They
I'm
can
talking
fight.
about the ones you were talking about earlier, where you said they'll fight for their punk, and they're in love with them.
Oh, they'll kill each other
And you
behind them.
saw this, so white guys, did they have white punks?
Yeah, there's white guys that have punks too.
No, I know that goes on with all races, but do Mexicans have Mexican punks, black punks, or is their race mixture there?
I guess it just depends on their preference.
Yeah, so there's no prejudice going on there, right?
Well, no, I can't say that. They like I said, the other races feel that the white race is weaker because the white race really in prison is the minority.
And how does somebody become a punk? Are they homosexual tendency when they get there and they become a punk that way?
Well,
or
no.
do they get beat down and be forced to become a punk?
Back in the day, they used to keep beating them up till they gave in. And
Yeah.
sometimes they were forced. They were forced.
But you say that doesn't happen now.
No, not in most prisons. No.
So these punks are still there, and this kind of relationship still goes on. But you say homosexuals are housed somewhere else. So who are these punks?
Well, like I said, the punks are usually housed in a general area. Like I said, the term is turning a person out from a man to a
But
punk.
you said you were in the same building with these guys who would shower with their punks. You said they bring their punks
Oh
in the
yeah,
shower.
that's in Louisiana, though.
Oh,
That's
okay.
that's in Louisiana.
Well,
That was
let's talk about that because I thought that was interesting.
that was years ago.
Are these punks? Would you say they were gay when they came to prison?
No, not all of them. Most of them were turned out.
Yeah. And were they? If it was a black guy in his punk, would it be a black man usually?
No, not always.
But it could be anything, right? A white guy could beat a black guy down too, right?
Well, in Louisiana, the prison population is about 90% black and it's about 10%
So
white.
whites don't. So there's
White's
not
the
much.
minority.
So whites aren't beating anybody down because they can't get away with
They
it.
cannot
don't
get
have
away with it
numbers.
there now.
But
There
you
are
say,
some whites that can fight and can do that too because their status, they're killers, they're penitentiary killers.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was legal. I mean, you could stab somebody and get away with it. Now you can't
Yeah.
do that.
How long's it been since you were in a Louisiana prison?
1997.
15 years.
Yeah.
A lot might have changed
Well,
there
actually,
too.
actually 93.
Okay. So, but let's talk about Allred and what went on there. Was this punk in the shower thing going on now?
No.
No?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Okay.
To have sex with a punk in the open in
Yeah.
front of everybody is a serious sign of disrespect to the
Oh,
other
yeah.
people. I mean, because you
So
got
how do they do it then?
well, they sneak off and hide and do it. I mean,
Are they cellmates?
well, sometimes they are, sometimes they ain't. I know in the dormitory where I live mostly, that doesn't really go on. I mean, there's some sneaking around after the lights go out where some will sneak off to their cubicle with their punks, and then there's some punks.
You were there 3 years, Marvin. How many rapes did you see?
I didn't see any in here in Texas, but I've seen plenty in Louisiana.
Did you hear about rapes in these last 3 years?
I heard about them, but them were usually where the homosexuals were housed in a 3 building, and a lot of guys would say they were homosexuals just to go be housed with them and get in the same cell,
Yeah.
or something like that. But I never, at the unit I was at, I never seen anybody really get raped. I've heard about it, but I never really ever seen it.
A lot of guys, and I'm one of them, have thought about going to prison. I've never been, but I've thought about what it might be like for somebody to approach you and say they want to have sex with you. What would, how that would play out.
Well, usually how if somebody comes at you like that, it's usually that somebody has a lot of time coming at somebody with a small amount of time.
Yeah.
Because they don't, a guy can have a capital life sentence and you only got a 5-year sentence, and they generally come at people like that. They don't.
Why?
Why? Because they want to go home. They want to make parole, and a lot of
Yeah.
guys will just give in to it because they don't want to get in trouble and they want to go home.
Yeah, because they could get in trouble too, like if it was termed a fight or something.
Exactly. That's what how. I mean, there's different ways it can happen. Guys can get in debt for drugs, tobacco.
So when new prisoners are brought in, you've seen scenes in movies where guys are whistling and hollering and saying fresh meat and stuff like that. Does that still happen?
No, the way it happens here is when you walk into when you first get there, you're going to be approached by your own race, and you're going to have to go to the shower and fight, and or you might be approached by another race, but you're going to have to go to the shower and fight, and if you don't, well, then you're considered to be a punk.
Yeah, but what I was asking was, when they see new inmates come in, do some of them look at them as potential punks? And
They
start talking about them and start saying stuff like,
the
"I want that one." And
No.
no,
But if they do it under their breath. You know who the Bootie bandits are and who ain't. It's not hard to figure out. Somebody new to the prison system would not know.
Booty bandits. You mean the ones who like to have sex with men?
Yes.
And what percent of those guys get back out on the street and they go back to having relationships with women and only have homosexual sex while they're in prison?
Almost all of them, unless they were a homosexual before they came.
And why do you think they do that when they're in prison, other than the fact that there's no women there?
They just don't want to stand up for themselves and be a man.
No, I mean the men who rape other men. Why wouldn't they just go without until they get out and can have relations with women?
Most of the ones, they never getting out.
Most of the ones who were committing this crime are the ones who were in there for life.
Have life sentence or real long sentences.
So they figure they're never going to have a woman again, so they want to have sex with a man just to have sex.
That's the majority of them. A lot of them have real long sentences, 40 years, 60 years sentences, and they know they're not going to make parole anytime soon. They just really don't care. Most of them are going to die there.
On that movie, Get Straight, or what's it called? The one they used to scare kids.
Oh, Scared Straight?
Scared Straight. Scenes of a guy, or they make one of the kids walk around putting his finger through some guy's belt loop.
Yes, I've seen that video 2 or 3 times.
Does that really happen?
No, not anymore.
It used to,
It
though?
used to happen, yes.
Somebody else told me a story of a guy punked another guy, and next thing you know, they had put a broom head, a mop head, painted it yellow and put it on his head to wear as a wig, and stuff like that. Dress him up like a woman.
No, back in the day, I mean, they can't do that in Texas. They can't do that. But back in the day, they used to all wear Kool-Aid for eyeshadow, Kool-Aid for lipstick.
Yeah.
They do their eyes. There's still some that do it, but the guards make them stop. See, in Louisiana over there.
So they ask you if you're homosexual when you come in.
Yeah.
If you say yes, you go in a different part of the prison.
Not necessarily.
All red's 4,000. You say it's broken into 3 sections, right? Homosexual, security risk and general pop?
Well, actually, it's broken down into several different parts. It's broke down into segregation, which is 1,000-man
Yeah.
unit in itself. You have high security, which are for disciplinary problems or just one step from going to
Yeah,
seg.
those are the ones they figure they can't control, so they're in single cells.
The ones in seg, they have double cells in high security and single cells. They have seg in high security also. They're
But
just
in
different.
seg, they don't let them out for recreation and stuff.
Right, and then they have different buildings. Which on the B side of the farm is usually 7
How
and 8
many in the
buildings.
homosexual part?
The homosexual part is on the A side, and it's usually 3 buildings, no matter which farm you
How
go
many
to.
guys there?
450.
Yeah.
But a lot of them are little bitty guys. A lot of them are also on safe prisons because they have a lot of lawyers, kids, and judges'
And the rest
kids.
of it's general, right? So that would leave about 2,500 normal, 1,000 in security, and 500 who are known homosexuals or admitted homosexuals.
Yeah, something like that. But there's more
So
in
the
it.
sex that goes on with those 500 in that block, that's probably consensual, you think?
Well, I don't know. That's where a lot of raping's going on. In fact, there was a couple of killings that happened there where a guy killed his bunkie just for the heck of it. Strangled
And
him.
what
to
about
death.
in the main unit where you were in?
Well,
Where
they-
nobody's claiming they're a homosexual.
Well, they do have homosexuals in the general population too, but usually they're the ones who are old convicts that sneak around at nighttime in the dorm. Because I lived in the dormitory. I only lived in the buildings where the cells are for about 6 or 9 months. But I spent most of my time in the dormitory because that's for people who are for good behavior. But they still have a lot of homosexual activity that goes on there at the nighttime. You don't really see it though. I mean, you have to be up. We call them night crawlers. That's what we call them, night crawlers.
But I thought the cells were locked at night.
Well, that is if you're in the building. But if
Yeah.
you're in the dorms, you're in a you're in an 80 bunk dorm with 80 guys.
Night crawlers.
Yeah, they sneak around at night. They stay up. When the lights go out, they get up and start doing their thing. I never ever paid attention to it. That's why I ain't never seen nothing. I mean, not here. I mean.
Yeah, but you were telling us a story about some guy with a shank going under everybody's bed.
Oh, that was in
time.
Louisiana. Because see, in Texas, they got cubicles. You got your own little wall, so you're cubicleized in your cubicle.
Yeah.
In Louisiana, it's not like that. You have 45 bunks. It's all dorms there, unless you're a disciplinary problem.
Yeah.
Then you're locked in a cell. That's what Camp J was for. I mean, there's several different disciplinary places that
Our
you can go
time's
to.
about up, Marvin, for this week, but I want to bring up one more thing I thought was funny, and we got a kick out of it in the truck the other day because Coach had run into this in high school on a sports team where you got heterosexuals, you got homosexuals. I don't know what you'd call somebody having sex with himself, but the guy who was giving himself oral sex that you were telling us about.
Yeah, well,
Was that in
I
Texas?
never seen. Yeah, that was here in Texas, but I never seen that for myself.
Well, it's a
My
known fact
boss.
that some people are double jointed or whatever.
Yeah, well, yeah, the guy was eating himself up.
Yeah, like a dog can lick his own balls.
Yeah, the guy was eating
some-
himself up.
And didn't you say that every time the guards would say every time they walked by his cell?
Yeah, he was in there with a blanket over himself, eating himself up.
Where was that at?
That was at Allred.
Just now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you know this guy?
No, absolutely not. He was somewhere in SEG. My boss man that I worked for told
Somewhere
me.
in SAG.
Yeah.
That isn't why he was in SAG, is it?
Well, no, he's probably some sort of security threat. That's why they're usually in SEG.
Yeah.
Either confirmed gang members or killers, or they got caught with shanks, or.
One last thing. Were you approached for sex? Did anybody ask you for sex or try to forcefully take sex from you
In Texas?
in this last 3 years?
No.
No? What's the closest incident that came to that? Like anybody flirt with you or...
Oh, that happens all the time. The homosexuals flirt with it. When you're going back and forth to lunch, they're feeding 2,500 hungry guys.
Yeah.
And they feed them by buildings and by dorms and all of that.
Yeah.
And anytime they have what you call mass movements, okay?
Yeah.
But they let them out on what they call shots, 5 or 10 at a time. and the guards are directing traffic. Well, you might be standing in the commissary line, which is right by where the 3 building is, where we had to go to commissary.
Yeah.
And the punks be coming out this way going to chow, and they might do like, that and all that type of shit, whistle at you or whatever.
Yeah.
The queers, yeah.
But what about these lifers that you're talking about who have given up on women and just want to have sex with men?
We call them knockout artists, booty bandits, whatever. They're no good.
What do they look for? Do they look for younger men?
They look for weakness. They're predators.
But don't they want somebody young and maybe
Not
just
necessarily.
getting in?
No, not necessarily. Anybody they feel that they could do it to, they'll try it.
Yeah. And do they?
They sniff fear.
Do they try to keep somebody for as long as they're there?
One of the main reasons the guys with long time wants a homosexual, because usually homosexuals have a lot of money,
Yeah.
and they're like their sugar daddy. See,
Yeah.
they look for that too. A person that's got a lot of money and they feel that's weak, so they can take the guy's commissary from them and take care of them while they're in there. Because usually the guys that have a lot of time, their families done gave up. They don't they don't send them no money, and
So they don't have anything.
that's their way. It ain't really always about the sex. It's about the money, what they can get out of you.
Hearing that would make me think that those kinds of guys should be in a different prison than normal people.
Well, usually, like I
Because
said,
they're hopeless. They know they're never getting out.
Well,
so they're gonna. And you say safe prisons. If they commit a crime, what more can you do to them?
Well,
they're already life in prison,
but they,
right?
exactly, that's the way they look at it. But see, a lot of them are smart enough to know that being in general population is better than being in a single man cell
so
where
they
you
don't
never
wanna-
get out.
Yeah.
And they might be in a single. Seg time does crazy things to a man. It will have you talking to the bugs, to the walls,
Yeah.
to everything.
Yeah. Man's a social animal, and he goes up in the woods and stays for years. He'll be a different man when he comes back. What do you think we should call this episode? Sex in Texas prison?
Well, I'd say the sex from the old ways to the new ways.
Or what's that program called? Safe Prison?
Safe prisons,
Texas
but there's
Safe Prison?
but there's a lot of different aspects of safe prisons that just don't apply to sex.
Right. It's a broad.
There's
law,
actually a law that's called the Prison Rape Elimination Act, or PREA.
Yeah.
That's the actual name of the law.
Yeah.
And state of Texas
overall,
does enforce it.
You've been in prison 30 years ago.
I've been in
25 years ago.
I was in prison when I was 14 years old in a juvenile facility.
You've seen a lot of time pass, and there has been a lot of progress, huh?
Yes. It's not. There's still a lot of violence that goes on. You have to fight when you go to prison. It's just one of the things. If you don't, you're never gonna really. You can walk around safe. You may. Now, usually, like I said, you usually get checked in. But if a person don't go fight, that just really means they're a punk. They don't necessarily mean they're gonna fuck them because of prison, because of safe prisons. But they're still considered to be a punk because they don't stand up for themselves.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're out of time. This has been episode 2, Tales from Texas Prison with Marvin Sullivan. I'm John Merritt. You guys have a good night.